here we go.
Take two. Hello, everyone.
We can't tell them it's take two.
Yes, we can.
Okay. We're
Hello,
taking
everyone.
two.
Welcome back to M&K Unscripted. Today, we're talking about personal finance and pie. And we have a very special guest.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Brittany Priggy. I'm in accounting. Work with nonprofits, which has been a really fun experience. Done auditing, banking, and all the fun. So let's see what questions you have for me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Kelly, it took me a little bit to convince her to do this podcast because personal finance is not her favorite thing in the world, but I love it so much. So I am so hyped to be here. And I'm so glad that we have Brittany here to be our little expert while also not like being like no pressure. It's okay. It's okay. But just having someone besides two 22-year-old girls to talk about money, which I think would be super fun. Why did you want to be an accountant? Like, what made you interested in doing that, like, as your career?
Well, I've always been good at math, so I took it as job security. I'm very boring when it comes to that. I didn't want to take any risks, so I just went for it. And I ended up liking it. So it worked out well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was an accounting major for 1 year, and I just love the spreadsheets and the numbers, and I love money so much. Oh,
Excel.
I love Excel so much. Kelly, how do you feel about Excel?
I actually work with Excel a decent amount for my job. So I'm used to it at this point. I will say that wasn't like my most favorite thing in the entire world when I first started working. I'm doing Excel stuff, but I feel like now I'm a lot more comfortable.
Slay. I also realized we forgot to talk about pie. Should we do that first?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We ate our pie a while ago. But yeah.
And what kind of pie was it, Megan?
We were going for French silk, but we didn't. It was some type of chocolate.
Chocolate satin pie.
Yes. It was really rich, I will say. That was a rich piece of cake. Not cake, pie.
Cake.
Pie.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a pie advocate. I love pie. I will say it's not as good as cake, but I like warm fruit. Megan, explain your
Anti-warm
opinions.
fruit. No. The chocolate satin pie is like the only type of pie that I enjoy. Except like maybe coconut cream and maybe a lemon pie. But like that's about it. But like any type of like apple pie.
Oh, my grandma's apple pie is the best.
Would you pick pie like as one of your favorite desserts? Or how do you feel
I
about
like
pie?
every dessert, so but no, cake is definitely better than pie. But I would eat just about any dessert. So
that's fair. I'm also such a frosting person. And like pie doesn't have frosting. And so I don't know.
Well, just put some ice cream or some whipped cream or something.
Ice cream cake though.
Oh, I like ice cream cake.
Especially in the summer. That is where it's at.
That slaps. I am a fan of that.
Yeah, for real.
Yum. I feel like at least half of our foods in this podcast have been like dessert.
And I don't see a problem with that.
That's fair. I mean, I don't either.
No.
Like, what can I say? I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, should we talk about money now?
Oh, yeah. I'm so ready.
I first have a question for Brittany. Why do you feel like money is like so scary and not fun to talk about? Because I feel like it's very much like it can be a taboo thing to talk about. Some people like, I know like Kelly just doesn't enjoy talking about it, and so maybe Kelly can share her answer too of why she doesn't like it. But what would you say to that question?
Well, I think it's because it stresses people out. I mean, you're always thinking, well, what if I run out of money, or what if I can't pay for this, or what if something happens, like with insurance or with a rent payment or student loans. What if you don't have enough to pay for it? And if you don't have enough money to do XYZ things that you've always thought you'd want to do, it's just some things that cause stress. Yeah. People don't like to talk about what stresses them out.
Mm-hmm. So it's not like money, it's more just like a lack of money. Because yeah, I agree, like our world runs on money.
Because if you have a lot of money, it's fun to talk about what you can do. But most people don't have a lot of money. So then it's, work paycheck to paycheck and you have to figure it out. So I think it's more stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for me, it's honestly lack of knowledge. So, like, when I think about money, I don't feel very confident in my ability to budget or, like, do loans or, like, anything related to, like, I have had to grow a lot in the past year of, like, now that I have an apartment and now that I have my own car and, like, all these bills I have to pay, like, my philosophy of life in the past has just been don't spend money. And so it's been, like, a big transition of trying to figure out how to acknowledge that I literally have to spend money. Like, I can't just not spend money anymore, and, like, figure out how I can do it in the best way possible. But, like, I don't have the background or the skills to be able to do it, so I think it just stresses me out to, like, think about.
I feel like that's super relatable. I also feel like that's something probably a lot of people like struggle with. And then I could see like not wanting to talk about it because you feel like you don't have like the skills to talk about it, I guess.
Just a lot of jargon.
Yeah.
A lot of language. Like, what are you trying to tell me here?
Yeah. Especially when like you want to start learning and then you like start in the wrong avenue of like how to pick stocks or just like things that like, I don't know, like
skipped a few steps.
Yeah, like you don't necessarily like you should not start there. In some ways, like you never have to like do that if you don't want to. Like there are different ways to like grow your money and just all this stuff. But yeah.
So that was actually one of my questions for you, Brittany, especially coming from somebody who doesn't feel confident in the money sphere. Where do you recommend people starting? Like, it seems like super overwhelming to somebody who like doesn't have a lot of knowledge.
You looking for investing overall or just like how to save?
How to save. I guess like budgeting, I feel like, is the thing that I'm thinking of.
So I guess where I like to start is, okay, you examine what bills you have, what's necessary and what's more for fun or other things, and write it down on a sheet of paper and look at what you make per month and say, okay, I have to pay this, and then what should I set aside that's left right away when I get paid? So I'm not spending it forgetting that I have extra and then not having anything left. So that's where I would start.
So essentially just like keeping track of what you make and keeping track of what you spend and making sure that like what you spend isn't more than what you make, for sure.
And prioritizing the necessities too. So making sure that you know how much you need to have in your account per month for all of your monthly bills that you have.
How important do you think it is to like when you're keeping track of your money amounts, like to be super exact? Because like I've read a couple like different books on like finance people, and some people say like no, you just need to have like a general concept, and some are like no, you need to like write down like absolutely everything that you spend money on. Like, what are your opinions on that?
I wouldn't say you need to be exact to the T, but I think you need to know, like, I like to round up. I say it's more conservative. But like, for example, if mortgage is 1629, okay, example, I'll round up to like 1650 or 1700. So then if something happens, there's a little bit of wiggle room, but I wouldn't say you need to be by the penny. So just having that so I'm in the middle. Have your general knowledge of what's coming up, but then try to be a little more specific to see what maybe you could put in the savings right away to try to build that up.
Yeah. Usually in the past, like I said, I'm such an Excel person. Like I'll go into my credit card statement and I'll like look at the exact dollars and cents just because I like putting in the formulas and like seeing them all add up in Excel. But also like I feel like I've been doing that for so long now that like I'll go for like 3 weeks without updating my budget, and I'll just like kind of know approximately like what it feels like to spend like an average amount, and then I don't have to keep like an exact number to know I'm still doing okay, just because like I've built the habits of like keeping track, I guess.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. With budgeting, why is that important?
If you don't have an idea of what's coming up, then you're setting yourself up to fail.
And like, how do you know like how much to allocate for everything, or like how much you need to save? Like, is there like a rule? Like, I'm trying to play the advocate here of people that don't know anything, but like, how do you know what percentage you should be like putting towards like a retirement fund versus like just saving for like emergencies? Like how do you
Mm-hmm.
put proportions, I guess?
That's a really hard question to answer because it depends on a lot of factors. I mean, how much do you make? How many bills do you have? How much excess do you have? So I think you have to take it by different stages in your life too, because I guess for us, having children right after college, I mean, we didn't have much time to really build up reserves because we came right out of college. And so it was just looking, if I were to go back and do it over again, I'd probably do it a little differently in regards to during college, how I was saving, just because I never thought about it much. But I guess save what you can. Start retirement savings as soon as you can. And also, the one thing I wish I would have known in college is to pay off some of your loans as you're going. Because I had jobs I could have probably paid like $50 here and there, but I just never thought about it. And I wish I would have. So it's just maybe asking other people, maybe that are a little older while you're in college or while you're in high school, those questions to see how can I plan for some of these scenarios. But it's, like I said, it's going to be different based on how much you make and what you have left over with your bills. So it's hard to say a specific percentage throughout all of the time, but I guess doing what you can.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna set a situation up for you, and then I'll ask a question. For like, so Kelly and I are like both 22, just came out of college. Like there are student loans in the picture, and like we don't have any reserves, but we just have our job now, and like I don't know, like we like both go out to eat and like hang out with friends and like do all this stuff. Um, like what if we would be doing our budget and like I would look at the numbers and I would say like, wow, I'm not making as much as I'm spending. Like I need to like cut somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you decide like where to save money and like how to do that if you like are realizing I need to save more money than I am? Like how do you start that?
Well, the first place to look is your extra stuff, like your extracurricular activities. So that'd be like the going out to eat. What are other options to kind of fulfill that? Do you invite friends over to eat at your house and have everyone bring something, which would be cheaper than going out and getting drinks and getting appetizers and then getting a meal? That all adds up really fast. So I guess that would be the first place I would look at. And that's what we do too, is okay, wow, we really ate out a lot last month. Maybe we really need to watch that. So that's where we start. And maybe we don't need to, do all these extra activities for a few months so we can get caught up with the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a lot of bills that we have to pay, utilities, rent. So there's a lot of things you can't really cut out. So that's where I start.
Mm-hmm. I never realized before I was an actual adult, like how much does life costs? Like internet, that's like $60 a month. Like that's crazy. That just to like have Wi-Fi on my phone, like it's $60 a month.
Yeah, you take it for granted.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for real. Like in college, I just like had Wi-Fi, or like I don't know, like even just rent itself, and like I have to pay for water, and I have to pay for electricity, and it's like all these things that were just included before that I didn't have to think about. Like they're all like fixed like costs in my like monthly budget, and so it really just eats away at like all the money that you have to like
Mm-hmm.
save and spend on things that you want to spend it on.
Yeah, I feel like the dilemma I'm currently having is I want to save money and like be smart, and at the same time I also want to be a 22-year-old and like go out and like have fun with friends and like go to restaurants and not be like constantly thinking of money. And so I feel like it's hard. Like I just have to acknowledge to myself that if I'm going to want to go and hang out and spend money, that I'm going to be spending money and I need to like actually pay attention to doing that. But I feel like it just depends on the lifestyle that you're into. Because I'm also
Mm-hmm.
literally single, don't have kids. Like, I feel like it's different if you were married and had kids at my age.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing is just watching what you're doing and making sure that you're checking your balance. I like to check it every day, but that's just how my brain works. I want to make sure that I didn't miss something or there's not fraud or from my bank teller days. It's just something I like to to double check. But yeah, just making sure that you're on top of what's left for the month and okay, what do I have left over and am I still doing okay? So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that just kind of tapped into a whole area of like psychology and like emotions surrounding money, which I think it'd be interesting to talk about a little bit. Like, I don't know, I feel like there can be so much fear surrounding money. Like, and I feel like even talking about money, which like maybe Brittany, you can talk about a little, like since you're married and like both you and Jason like make decisions together as a couple. And so like you really have to be on the same page about your money.
Yep.
And like communicating about that. Like, was that hard at first? Like when you were first married and like dating, having to talk about money?
In some ways, yes, but in a lot of ways, no, just because we were always so comfortable around each other as is, and we didn't have many surprises. I mean, we've known each other for so long, and we went through college at the same time, so we knew we both had student loan debt, had all of the things. We got married right after college. Actually, no, last semester of college. So,
Dang.
I mean, so wedding in the midst of finishing college. So you're just adding, a lot of money at one point of time. But, if you don't talk about it, you are just adding a whole other layer of issues. So we acknowledge that really quickly, that if we don't talk about it, then you just dig a really deep hole.
Mm-hmm. Did you have like similar opinions regarding like saving? And I know like you had like a lot of big expenses like right away, but were you like on the same page, or did you ever like disagree about money when you were first starting to date?
I wouldn't say we disagreed. It's just, it was more of like, well, we really want this. Why can't we have it? It's so frustrating. Why do we have to work so hard and then have nothing left at the end? So I think it's not that we disagree with each other. It's just like, how do we discuss our priorities? And if we really want something, how do we make that happen? I think it's been more on that, and the stress of, okay, we both have two jobs. So figuring out, how do you balance it out? And why do we have to have two jobs to make it all work? But at the same time, we don't want to sacrifice what we have. So I guess that's more so of the things we've had to work through. But I wouldn't say we disagreed on anything. Which is, it's good that we have that healthy communication, because it's one of the leading causes of divorce. I mean, you hide something for so long, and then you have this big issue. And so it's something that's really important to talk about.
Is there, so say you did have a disagreement, and like somebody had a disagreement about finances, how would you approach that conversation? I guess, like, I know that might not be your expertise, but like from a money perspective, like how would you talk about it?
Like in a relationship?
Yeah.
How would you approach it?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and it depends on the personality too, but let's say we were to have disagreed on something. But we have to talk about what the priorities are. I mean, we have two kids. I mean, we have to put them first in some regard. Like, there's medical stuff to pay for. We have insurance. We have this house that we live in, to keep a safe space. So it's, even if we're upset with the circumstance, we have to remind ourselves where we need to start from. And I think that would probably be the best way to start.
Yeah. So like kind of reminding each other of like your goals in life, I guess you're saying.
Well, and one thing, and when we do, I mean, we've had plenty of hard times financially too. One thing we always remind ourselves of is we've gotten through it before, and God's got us through it again. As hard as it sounds, we say that a lot, but it's a good thing. Just to remind ourselves, to center ourselves that it will be okay. We'll get through it somehow. Whatever is in the plan, to make sure that we keep that in the center of our minds too.
Yeah, I remember my dad always talking about how like my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and there are four of us kids, so like money was kind of tight sometimes. But like I remember even just like in the past couple of years when I've been talking to my dad about money and like finances when I was growing up, like he said that they always just trusted that like God would give them what they needed, and he said God will provide, and he always did, which like doesn't help the stress if you don't have money in your bank account for like a bill. But like I don't know, somehow I feel like just like trying to have peace about it, because like yeah, money can be super stressful, like especially if you don't have enough of it, or if like you don't know what's going on or how to handle your money,
or you lose your job like with COVID. Like I'm sure that was a big stressor for a lot of people too.
Yeah. So I remember you saying, like, still on the like finances as a couple, like that you and Jason are, is it like a
A sponsor
sponsor couple?
couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Do you want to talk more about that and like how money is involved in you guys being a sponsor couple?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's interesting. It's the topic that I get to talk to couples about. Um, there's a really simple, like within the, so we use Fully Engaged. It's a national uh, marriage course, sponsor couple meeting program, I guess you could say. And they do a nice job laying out a sample budget in the back of the packet. And so it's nice to just walk through with couples on that and just say, here's an example. You don't have to follow it to a T, but then talk about why it's important. Another really cool thing that we actually had with our sponsor couple is talking about what's a dollar amount that you need to talk about before you spend. So, like, what level of comfortability do you have with each other and with the dollar amount before you need to talk to each other? So, if you go get a coffee, you don't need to ask permission. But what's that dollar amount that you need to talk to each other about? So we talked about like 2 to 500 would be like the first level of like, okay, we really need to talk about this. But then you have, groceries. Obviously, you have to get groceries, and most of the time it's more than that. But if it's like a one-time purchase or that kind of thing, making sure you're talking to each other about those things, so it's not a surprise later. So that was a really good experience we had as an engaged couple. So we always bring that up with our couples too. Is talk about that stuff. What is your comfort level with it? Are you sharing a bank account when you get married? Are you still keeping them separate? I mean, the church really wants you to combine all of your assets, so you're really being transparent with each other. So that's another thing that people don't tend to agree with. At least we find a lot. But then when you talk about if you're not sharing those things, you might be spending more money on things that you don't realize. So when you look at a big picture, because when we combined our two accounts, it actually took us a couple of years to do that. Once we did that, we're like, wow, we can actually do this and we're actually okay and we can track it a lot better. Like we should have done this a lot sooner. So it was a really good thing, and so we share that too with our couples that we have.
Mm-hmm. Do they usually have like conversations like when you're with them, like talking about stuff, or is that like you giving them advice to talk about later?
So there's a couple questions that revolve around the conflicts, depending on, so it's an inventory based. So there's certain questions that if they answer differently, we have to discuss. Not like it's a bad thing, but it's just so we talk about it while we're all together, and then we can kind of mediate if need be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, was there a time that there was a conflict talking about money, or do you have a fear of money, or does it give you anxiety? Something like that. I can't remember the wording of the question, but we talk about that a little bit. And I can't remember if one of them is a required question where we have to talk about it, but there's a few of those types of things, like what bothers you about money? Have you talked about it? Have you talked about what your plans will be? Is the wedding going to be a financial burden to you, is one of the questions. And luckily I don't think we've had a couple say yes, so that's good. But yeah, so there is a lot of good discussion that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good opportunity for them to also think about, maybe, oh, we need to talk about this a little more. What happens if a child's sick and then someone needs to stay home? Like other factors that can kind of be stressful with pay and who's staying home, if they're going to stay home full time as a parent, and those types of things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been really good.
Does money seem to be like a big stressor, like to couples in that situation that you've experienced? Or is that something that you can tell like they've talked about before?
It's been kind of a half and half, I would say. Some freeze up, like, oh great, we're gonna talk about money. And some are like, yeah, we've actually talked about that. And we get a lot of, oh, I haven't thought about that, or but there's a lot of things that people don't like to talk about because it's stressful or uncomfortable. So, but yeah, no, there's been some that have, yeah, we've really talked about a lot of this. We've been really open with each other, and so each couple's different.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun.
I'm thinking so much right now. I feel like I'm learning so much. But like a lot of my experience with money has been I'll just like be put in a situation and then I have to like learn from it. And I don't know if that's like the best way to go about it. So like, how much would you recommend people like doing their research and like preparing themselves when they're like in high school and college versus just like approaching each situation as it arises?
Well, I
That
know in
makes
our
sense.
high school we had a personal finance course. It wasn't required. I couldn't take it because of choir, but it would have been nice. I think it's something that they should require. There's kids now that don't even know how to sign a check.
Mm.
You know,
Uh-huh.
I think it's important for people to know, what does a budget look like? Why is it important? How do you write a check, or how do you fill out like mortgage paperwork or rent paperwork? Or even better, what does a student loan mean? Like, when does interest start accruing? These things that would be helpful to know going into college instead of finding out after you graduate college, like I
Mm-hmm.
did in some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's really underrated, I think, in our society. We're so wanting to like do the best in, high level math or high level science or high level XYZ, but we don't think about like the basic human skills that everyone needs to know.
Yeah.
So now you can Google it, but I still think it would alleviate a lot of the stress, I think, if people went into these situations already having an idea of what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember in high school, like people kind of making fun of that, being like, "I'm never gonna use the Pythagorean theorem, but I don't know how to like do finances," and it's like they're teaching us the wrong things, which like I don't want to start that argument because I don't know if I necessarily believe that, but like, yeah, I feel like it would have been nice to
It's just
have.
so like it could be a 1 credit course, like your first year of college, even.
Yeah.
Like make it as part of your first year experience, or your senior year of high school, making it like we had quarters, like 1 quarter class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at our college, we had a personal finance class, and I took it my senior year. And that was honestly probably one of my favorite classes. But also, you can tell I'm a personal finance nut. But like, I just felt so empowered learning about things that like I knew kind of about, but like learning just more. Like, one of our assignments was like, check your credit score. And like learning how to do that and learning like, okay, this is my credit score. And because like the things that affect your credit score, because like, even like you're gonna need good credit if you want to like have a mortgage, and like just like learning what it means so then you can know like what things affect your credit score. Like even that is just
Or
like
you want to
so
buy a
big.
car.
Yeah, literally
And
any loan
yeah.
ever. Like the interest rate, like that matters. Like it's good to have a good credit score, and it's good to like know what is impacted by that. So yeah, I think that's so useful for people. And like we had a budgeting unit in that class, and like the spreadsheet that we used for the budgeting assignment, like I still use that for my month to month budgeting spreadsheet. Like I
Nice.
loved it so much. It was just like so helpful, and it laid things out in a really good way. Like having like your income at the top, and then like all your expenses, and it like listed out all like the different types of expenses you could have and stuff, and then you could like personalize it.
It's an income statement.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. It's so great.
My accounting nerdness.
Yes. Also me, I was like, income statement. Yeah. So like I just think that's super cool. But also in that class, like somebody came in and talked about student loans, which like that was the perfect time because most of the class that I took, they were juniors and seniors. So like that was really, really relevant time to be talking about student loans and stuff. Do you know a lot about student loans, or like the different types of student loans? Because I
know what I have. But like the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized. The subsidized ones, if I remember correctly, they, at least for me, they have the higher interest rate. Subsidized ones are a little bit lower. And I don't remember why, but there's also like Pell Grants and other types of things that you could receive depending on your income level and your qualifications.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't ever remember being told about the interest rate accruing throughout your time in college. So that was something I learned when I graduated. And I'm a first generation college. My parents did not go to college. So the FAFSA and all of those things, it was my sisters and I learning. And it was stressful.
Yeah.
Luckily, all 3 of us were within 2 years, so we still qualified for decent amounts, but not enough. But we got something. I mean, I hear about a lot of people who don't even get anything from FAFSA, and I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I work I know a decent amount about financial aid because of my job. And yeah, like now it doesn't matter how many kids in your family are in college at the same time. Like that doesn't help you
It
for your
doesn't.
financial aid
Wow.
anymore. So that could
Is
be
that
like
a new thing?
yeah, yep, it's as of this
Okay.
past year.
Wow.
So yeah, super new. But like it's just super fascinating because yeah, like I know, like I said, I know a decent amount about loans, like because of my job, but just so many people like aren't told except
Mhm.
for when you're a freshman and you take your first loan, you have to do what's called entrance loan counseling. And essentially you can just like
Yes.
click through all the different, like it's telling you what's happening, but like, you
Mhm.
don't know and you don't care because that's like a 4 years from now problem. Um, but yeah, if you can choose between subsidized and unsubsidized, subsidized is better because the
Mhm.
government pays your interest. And unsubsidized, like you still don't have to pay it until 6 months after graduation, but like the interest is accruing. So
Mhm.
like I'm sure you learned the hard
Yeah.
way that like
Mhm.
it very much like adds up because it's like every month the interest is more.
And
And like
especially during the COVID like pause, which was nice that interest wasn't there, but then it was like, oh, I don't have to pay, right?
mhm.
So then,
And you
it
get
was
used to
helpful
that.
in the time, right? But then it's like, dang it, I should have just kept paying because
Mm-hmm.
I would have almost been dead,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then when you get into private loans, like those are really scary. Like those interest rates, they can
Mhm.
accumulate super fast if you don't like even just pay off the interest every month. So,
Mhm.
like student loans, like they're a big reality for so many people in their 20s, especially.
Mhm.
Like it's a really big deal to like have to pay them off and it seems like super scary and like it can get overwhelming really fast.
One the difference in college pricing from like 20 years ago to now is just astronomical.
Yes.
Insane.
I know. It's crazy.
Oof.
Scary.
So yes, for anyone listening, if you have a job and you're in college, put something away for that interest. Just little bits will help you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the struggle, I don't remember what context I was talking about this with, but a lot of people in college, which we were just in college, like don't care as much about long-term consequences. Like a lot of the times like we're thinking about like what's happening right now and we're not thinking about what's beyond college and like what's in the future because that seems like so far off. And like
Mhm.
I totally get that because I was just there.
I was there when I was in my
But
20s.
yeah, but like I feel like now that I'm still 22, the same age I was when I graduated college, but I feel like I have a new perspective on, oh, it actually kind of is important to like think about money and like prepare for the future. So I feel like, I don't know, understanding that that is where college students often are at is that they're not thinking about long term, like finding ways to think about, like help them think about how important it is to think long term, I guess.
Hmm.
Which
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a losing battle, but like it's, I don't know, something to acknowledge at least.
Yeah. I feel like one of the really cool things for younger people, which we all are, is to like think about like the power that time has on money, which we also talked about investing. I know we
Hmm.
just talked a tiny bit about investing
Yep.
earlier, but like the difference in like interest growing over time, like if you just invest money when you start young is just like your money can grow like exponentially
Hmm.
like as you age if you start investing early and you start like saving money and like you're aware of that, which I think is like such a powerful tool that people like don't realize because like nobody's told them, or like Kelly said, like they don't really think about like the long-term consequences of things.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you know much about investing or
I know some.
like if someone had, so let's go back to like the budget and like having an excess amount of money and they're like, okay, like I have an extra $300 a month, like what should I do with this? Like how do you like, what do you think about like the breakdown of like putting money in as like savings account versus like investing and like what type of investing and like what
Hmm.
would you tell someone who like that all seems super overwhelming and they don't know where to start?
Yeah. Well, I think it depends on what your ultimate goal is. So I think when you're saving, it's important to try to think about, what do you want for your life in 10 years? Let's say you have $100 a month to put away. Well, do you think you're going to need it in a year? Then I probably recommend just doing like a money market or a regular savings account. But if it's something that you can keep and not need to touch for quite a while, you could look into putting it into an investment account with stocks, bonds, other things, and then that will be your exponential growth that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So
How
I
long
think
is quite a while? Like when you say quite a while, like
I would say like 5-10 years
okay.
minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Because in those types of cases, if you want to see that growth, you don't want to touch it. You can touch it, but you don't want to take out too much where it won't really gain your gains and losses and dividends.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on what your goal is.
Yeah. Because I know like I know a little bit about investing, but like the whole power of the stock market and of investing is like long-term growth. Because if you look at like a graph of what your money looks like in stocks and bonds and like the stock market, like it goes up and down so much from year to year, but like over time there's like a very regular increase.
Right. And the
so
mistake people make is, and I deal with this a lot in my work, you have people who want to play the market. Like, well, right now we're at a really great market. We want to, cash in. Well, then tomorrow you wait 2 days to take it out. Well, then the market crashes. Well, then what?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely important to think, if you're going to go that route, think about it 5-10 years from now. And then by that point, if you're looking to have your house with land somewhere, maybe that would be a good down payment. But for now, you're just trying to put money away to that goal.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something like, in 5 months, you might need a new furnace. Maybe. So you want to have that money more readily available. I know also the market lately with CDs has just been flipped on its head, where CD rates have been really good.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people have been investing in CDs, but you have to remember you can't touch that money at least for 6 months to a year, to maybe 12, 16 months, depending on what you choose. So yeah, that's really important to think about. Like I said, like even with budgeting too, what is your goal? Because if you're budgeting a certain amount of money a month to put away into a savings, is this going to help you reach your goal? Or what do you need to change to reach that goal?
Mm-hmm. Can you be a little more specific when you say like, I have $100 a month and like I'm gonna invest it? Like, what does that mean for someone that doesn't know how to invest? Like, is there like an app that you use, or like a website, or like do you talk to somebody, or like how do you invest?
Well, there's options. So you could either purchase stocks if you're feeling risky and you want to invest in something. I mean, there's really low risk stocks, like bigger companies that have been around for a long time. You could invest in something like that. Or you could there's a lot of different investment firms in the area. You could go in and make your own account. Sometimes they have minimum balance requirements though. So if you have $100, you might not be able to start an account with $100.
Mm-hmm.
They might require, 5,000-10,000 to be put into, because you invest $100 in the market, it's not really going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at doing $100 a month, if you want to start sort of saving, you could go into, purchasing a stock or share of a company, or there's like E-Trade or like those types of things, which I've never done, but I'm sure you could. There's an app or something you could do that with. But a lot of times, for me, my comfort level would be putting it into a savings until I get to like a $5,000 mark, and then maybe talking to an investment broker or meeting with the financial planner to see, I have 5,000, I have this goal, what options do I have? Because a lot of times it's the best to go to somebody who works with it every day, so they know the market makeup at that current time, what's the best option for your goal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one to just say, I'm going to try this and see what happens. I want a little more security in my decision making, but that's my accountant brain talking. So I would recommend, you want to have $100 a month, but you want to have like around 5,000 at least, I would say.
Yeah.
Before you'd want to really invest it somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like with the personal finance knowledge that I have, which I've read books of like a couple different people about like different types of investing, and like I've talked to different people. I guess like I would say like if you have no idea what you're doing and you feel really overwhelmed, like don't go online and just like buy a stock. I feel like that's not the way to go. Like
right.
I feel like talking to people is helpful. Like you said, like if there's like a financial advisor that can like be with you on your journey, like to retirement, like that could be really helpful to have someone to like give you advice and stuff, especially if you like don't feel like you have the knowledge yourself, like they can really help you. And I feel like that could be empowering for sure. I feel like, do you have a Roth IRA?
No.
Okay, because that is
Mm-hmm.
one thing that like many different like personal finance gurus have like said that a Roth IRA is
Definitely recommend though.
yeah.
When I get to that point in life when I've got extra to put away. But yes, I'm working for a nonprofit. I have a 403B, so there's that, and then there's other options of things. But yeah, because I do plan at some point to start my own IRA, I'll definitely go Roth. So that's the pre-tax dollars. So when you retire, you don't have the tax burden because you've already handled the taxes up front. So that's why they're pushing for the Roth, which is, I wouldn't say like completely newer, but your traditional IRAs, once you do retire, you have to take the tax burden of losing that. So
Yeah. So for those that don't know, do you know what IRA stands for? I think it's individual retirement account, or yeah, I'm
yes, that
almost
sounds right.
positive. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
essentially, that's just like an account that invests, and like you can buy different types of, I guess, like stocks and investments like in
Mm-hmm.
your IRA, but there are two different types, and one is a Roth and one is a traditional. And if you can pick one, you should pick a Roth IRA
Mm-hmm.
because essentially, like, it's just money that you can like take from your bank account. That's like, if you've already been taxed from your job and you like get a check, you could take that check and go invest it in your Roth IRA, and it will grow until you're 60. I think it's like 59 and a half, 60. You can start taking it out when you're older. Like then you can
Well,
start
and the
taking it
retirement
out.
age keeps changing, so it
Yeah.
depends. Right now, it's 65.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly the year for an IRA.
Okay.
But you want to be careful that you don't take too much out ahead of that, because then you have other tax implications. And you
Yeah.
have to file it on your tax return and all of those.
Yeah. So once you're able to take it out, like
Mhm.
when you're at retirement age, then it has been growing and growing for like all of these years and it doesn't get taxed again. Like you get to keep
Mhm.
that money then. And a traditional is money that's like pre-tax. So like all the gross income that you earn from your job, like it takes the money before you're like have income taxes taken out, and then it grows. And so there's probably more because it's pre-taxed or post-tax, whatever. And then it's taxed once you take it out when you're older. So anyway, Roth IRA is better if you
Mhm.
can choose. But yeah,
Yes.
no, investing is, I feel like, really overwhelming. But
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like listening to this conversation, I was like, I'm so stressed. But then I felt very comforted in knowing that you can like reach out to like they have professionals who like literally work with money,
mhm,
and like you don't have to do this alone, which like makes me feel better as somebody who's not super comfortable with money.
yeah,
But also, it doesn't seem like it's like a necessity that you need to invest if you're not
Mhm.
like feeling super great about it, I guess.
Well, and another thing too, since you were both right out of college and you have your first big girl jobs, we'll say, um, to keep in mind that to do as much as you can now with whatever your company gives you as an option of retirement.
mhm,
So if there's a match of some kind, try to do your best to put as much of that towards a match as possible, or to put as much as you can into your retirement account as young as you can.
mhm. Yeah, that's a huge benefit to a job that I kind of didn't think about. Like they're literally giving me free money because I'm investing money that they're paying me. And they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, we'll just like match this percentage." Like that's crazy.
That's so nice.
Yes, like you
Employee
should be doing
retention.
that. Like I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Mhm.
Free money right there.
It literally is though, isn't
It
it?
literally is, yes.
Like they're just
Yeah.
Like if you invest a certain percent and they said that they will match that percent, that is them giving you free money.
Is that just like as an incentive to have them work for
It's
you?
employee
like a
retention. Yeah.
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 And some companies will have a vesting period, meaning you have to work with them a certain amount of time to get the full benefit. So
Yep, we have
I
that.
used to work for a company that had it tiered. So let's say you work for 2 years, you get 50% of what the company has contributed for you as a match. You would get your full portion that you've contributed, but then you would get half of what they did. So it's also important to look at your policy and see, what the vesting period is.
Yeah, because I know ours too, like right now, if we contribute a certain percentage, they'll do a lower percentage, but then like next year it'll be higher, and the next year it'll be higher, and then eventually like
for like 5 years, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Then eventually, like, they're contributing like more than we are, and
Nice.
it's just so cool. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's fun. See, I think that's so cool.
It's a good benefit.
Yes. So like, be able to see that money and think like, all right, in 40 years, like that will have grown exponentially, and
Mm-hmm.
like that's just so much better than me going out to eat a couple times this month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Real.
super fun.
Man, now I'm excited to retire.
Oh.
It's like free money, but it's like my money that I like save.
I love talking about money because I feel like the potential is just like there is just so much that you can do with your money. Like, it's scary if you don't have money, but if you're at a point where you're able to like spend less than you make, and then you have that excess money that you can do stuff with, like saving and like investing, and like if you really want to get into the weeds with different types of savings and different types of investings, like you can, but
Mm-hmm.
you can just keep it super basic if you want, and like watch your money accumulate, and that's just super fun. Yeah, I'm a fan.
I'm changing my perspective.
Yeah.
See, I feel like all
Yay.
I needed was a little bit of education, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love talking about this. If you see me in person, I'd love to talk to you about my investments because I think it's super fun.
She really would, and she doesn't talk about it with me because I hate it.
Yes, I really would. I really would. I'll give you some book recommendations. It'll be great. We can yap for hours.
Why don't you recommend the books on here?
Well, I could. Here, I need to look up one of them. Will you hold this mic? So I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey. If you know anything about finance, you probably have heard of him. He's a lot. I guess I would consider him more like conservative in the finance world because like one of his big things is like, if you are very much in debt, like I will teach you how to get out of debt and how to like take control of your money. And so I feel like that's a super cool tool. Like he gives you baby steps for like, here is how, yeah, like, here's the first thing you should do. Here's the next thing you should do. And it's like being able to like really take control. So you, like the debt is not in control anymore. The other one that I actually read recently, so this is a guy, he has his own Netflix show, but it's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I hope I'm saying that right. But that book I read this summer, and oh my gosh, it was so cool. He had have you heard of, I'm sure you've heard of Dave Ramsey.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
This guy, like one of my friends gave me this book and recommended it to me, and I gave it to my dad and he hasn't given it back to me yet. But like I want to read it again because I just felt so empowered by this book. He has a very different mindset of Dave Ramsey. His perspective is more like, okay, like you're not crazy in debt. Like you probably have some debt, but like you're more looking like, how can I become rich in the future? And he gives like a lot of steps of like, here's how you should be like using money to your advantage. So it includes stuff like having a vision for like what you want for your rich life and like how to budget, but it's like in a different way of like, let me find what's important to me. And then I'll like spend extravagantly on the things I love and cut mercilessly on the things I don't care about. So like this guy like loves to travel, but he has like a tiny apartment because he just like, that's not important to him. And he spends a lot of money traveling. And he still like is living his rich life of like what he envisions for himself. And he talks all about like automating his like bills, and like he like taught me about a bunch of different types of investments that like I have been like recommended to talk to a financial advisor, but I felt super empowered to like open my own Roth IRA. And so like I'm going like through Vanguard, and I just have like my own Roth IRA. And yeah, I have like different types of like funds, and like I don't pick my own stocks, but like there's just like so many different things. So that's getting in the weeds. I'd love to talk to you about it, but like I don't know, if you, depending on like how you're viewing money and I guess like where you're at right now, I feel like those are two different people that I have really liked like listening and like hearing what they have to say about money. But do you have other people?
Do I have other people that I talk to?
Well, like for like finance, any information or
any professionals?
No. Yeah, if you don't, that's okay.
Not really. I mean, just job experience more so than anything else. And college.
Yeah.
I'm usually the nerd that people come to talk to about money or finances. So
I love that. That's so fun.
And that's why you're on our podcast.
When I like that second book that you mentioned, because it goes back to really when you're thinking about budgeting and you're thinking about your goals in life, to keep that in the center of how you plan and keep that as your motivation to meet your goals. Like, what do you see for 10 years from now?
Yeah. Like keeping in mind the goals and like what makes you excited, because then like when stressful situations arise, then like you can still be excited to move forward and to still talk about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the cool part about money is like a lot of like money can help you have cool experiences if you like budget. Like if you don't care about like buying clothes or something, but like you really want to like go out with your friends or something, like thinking what's important to you really matters, I feel like, when you're thinking about money.
Yep.
Ah, so great. I love it. So that was all my list of questions. I wanted to open it up to you before we close this of like other things you wanted to say, like for your.
Yeah, I actually thought of one thing.
Yeah.
Going back to what we talk about in our marriage prep stuff. We talk about tithing a little bit and how the church recommends that 10% of your income goes to, half of it would go to your parish and another half of that 10% goes to a nonprofit of your choice or a cause of your choice. To keep that in mind too, it's really hard. Obviously, with the way the world is, I mean, it's hard for us to do that. But just to keep that in mind too, that when you think about, God will always provide for us, but to also think, the more that you give, even more will you receive, right? To try to and encourage as much as we can to give back what we can.
Aww.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
I feel like something that I recently put into my budget, just like a charitable contribution, it's called in my budget. But like, I feel like that's like, it's such a feel good area of my budget. Cause like I have it set out where like, all right, I'm going to donate like this certain amount per month. And like each month, like I pick a different organization to donate to. And it's just so much fun. Like it brings me so much joy to be able to like, even just give like a small money amount to these people and organizations. But yeah, super fun. Yeah, I think that's important too. Any last thoughts, Kelly?
I feel empowered and knowledgeable. So if there's anyone out there that's like me and doesn't like talking about money because they feel scared or like they don't have knowledge, just know that we're in this together. And there's so many resources online to like figure out how to deal with money and that it's not as scary as you might think.
Yeah. That's a sleigh. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Brittany, do you have any last words?
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. Like I said, like I've been excited to talk about this for a while. So I'm glad we could just like scratch the surface of all the different things that may be stressing you out in your life. But hopefully it's not. Hopefully money can become something exciting to talk about in a fun conversation. But yeah.
Don't be afraid to talk about it. This is my biggest thing is it is so important.
Yes. And everybody deals with it. So it's a very common thing.
Yeah, and on that note.
Okay, now we're going to go. Thank you so much.
Bye.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye.